What if a single dream could change the destiny of an entire nation? Imagine a young man, once sold as a slave, rising to become the second most powerful leader in the world, just in time to save millions from starvation. This is the story of Joseph, the man God used to turn famine into favor. Stay with me as we uncover the full story of the great Egyptian famine from the book of Genesis, Genesis 41:47. Pharaoh's mysterious dreams. The story begins in Egypt, where Pharaoh, the ruler of the land, had two disturbing dreams that no one could interpret. In my dream, I was standing on the bank of the Nile, when out of the river there came up 7 cows, fat and sleek, and they grazed among the reeds. After them 7 other cows came up, scrawny and very ugly and lean. I had never seen such ugly cows in all the land of Egypt. The lean, ugly cows ate up the 7 fat cows that came up first. Genesis 41:17-20. In the second dream, Pharaoh saw 7 heads of grain, full and healthy, being swallowed by 7 thin, scorched heads of grain. Genesis 41:22-24. Troubled by these visions, he summoned Egypt's wise men, but none could explain their meaning. Joseph's interpretation, a warning from God. At that moment, Pharaoh's cupbearer remembered Joseph, a Hebrew prisoner who had interpreted his dream 2 years earlier. Genesis 41:9-13. Joseph was immediately brought before Pharaoh. Joseph boldly declared, "I cannot do it, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires." Genesis 41:16. He explained that both dreams had the same meaning. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good heads of grain are 7 years. It is one and the same dream. The 7 lean, ugly cows that came up afterward are 7 years, and so are the 7 worthless heads of grain scorched by the east wind. They are 7 years of famine. Genesis 41:26-27. Joseph revealed that Egypt would experience 7 years of great abundance, followed by 7 years of severe famine that would ravage the land. Genesis 41:28-30. Joseph's promotion from prison to power. Not only did Joseph interpret the dream, but he also gave Pharaoh divine wisdom on how to prepare. Let Pharaoh appoint commissioners over the land to take 1/5 of the harvest of Egypt during the 7 years of abundance. They should collect all the food of these good years and store up the grain under the authority of Pharaoh to be kept in the cities for food. Genesis 41:34-35. Impressed, Pharaoh said, "Can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God?" Genesis 41:38. Joseph was immediately promoted to second in command, dressed in fine linen, and given Pharaoh's signet ring. Genesis 41:40-42. He was now governor of Egypt, the most powerful man in the land after Pharaoh himself. The years of plenty and the famine begins. For 7 years Joseph oversaw the gathering of grain, storing vast amounts in cities across Egypt. Genesis 41:48-49. When the famine finally struck, it was widespread and devastating, but Egypt was ready. When the famine had spread over the whole country, Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold grain to the Egyptians, for the famine was severe throughout Egypt. Genesis 41:56. The famine extended beyond Egypt, affecting surrounding nations. People from all lands came to Joseph to buy grain. Genesis 41:57. Joseph's brothers in Egypt, a divine reunion. Among those suffering were Joseph's own brothers, the very ones who had sold him into slavery years earlier. Genesis 42:1-3. Their father Jacob sent them to Egypt to buy grain. When they arrived, they bowed before Joseph, fulfilling the dream he had as a boy. Genesis 42:6-9. Joseph recognized them but kept his identity hidden. He tested their hearts by accusing them of being spies and demanding they bring their youngest brother, Benjamin, to prove their honesty. Genesis 42:15-17. When they returned with Benjamin, Joseph could no longer contain his emotions. In a tearful revelation, he declared, "I am Joseph. Is my father still living?" Genesis 45:3. His brothers were terrified, but Joseph reassured them. "Do not be distressed or angry with yourselves for selling me here. because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. Genesis 45:5. Joseph's family moves to Egypt. Joseph sent for his father, Jacob, Israel, and the entire family relocated to Egypt, settling in the land of Goshen. Genesis 46:26-28. Pharaoh welcomed them and provided the best of the land. Joseph's wisdom had not only saved Egypt, but also preserved the family through whom God's covenant would continue. So Joseph settled his father and his brothers in Egypt and gave them property in the best part of the land, the district of Ramesses, as Pharaoh directed. Genesis 47:11. Conclusion: God's sovereignty in hard times. The Great Egyptian Famine was not just a historical event, it was a divine setup for salvation. What others meant for evil, God used for good. Genesis 50:20. This story reminds us that even in famine, hardship and uncertainty, God provides for his people. He places the right people in the right positions at the right time. Joseph's faith, obedience and wisdom saved nations. And just like Joseph, we are called to trust God's plans, even when we don't understand them. Closing. If this video or Bible story resonates with you, please share it with us into the comments area to help others to keep strength in faith. On the other hand, if this story has blessed you, leave a comment below on how God has provided for you in tough times. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more powerful Bible stories from the Timeless Bible Stories YouTube channel. See you in the next video. God bless.